Welcome back. Not a lot's happened in the cornhole world since the last episode I did, so this episode should be a little shorter than normal, although I do tend to rant and go on side tangents sometimes on different topics, so who knows? This may be a full-length one, we'll see. I do have a few things I wanted to touch on, I wanted to cover that happened, and the ACO just had their Open number 3 this past weekend, so I wanted to update the Bag Makers Championship, show you the standings there, talk about that. I've got a couple of things I want to talk about, and then kind of jump back in the end. Got some more information on the conspiracy theories that I put out in the last episode. I want to jump in and kind of maybe add some more to that and get your opinions on those. So let's go and start out first. First thing I want to touch on is the way I say ACL, ACO. I've had someone comment on my last video, my last podcast episode, and I agree with them. Sometimes when I say ACO, ACL, I tend to talk fast. I try to slow myself down, but when I get on a roll and I start to think, and I'm not always focused on how fast I'm talking, and naturally I do talk fast. And when I say ACL, ACO, a lot of times it blends and it's hard to tell. I noticed that when I'm editing videos of my reviews, sometimes I'll say something and go, man, it sounds like I said ACO, but I know it's the ACL bag. And I have to really slow down and listen. Okay, I said it right. And I think, I don't remember who made that comment. I can't give them a shout out, but I do think it was Cornhole Steve. If I got that wrong, I'm sorry. You got a free shout out to Cornhole Steve. But I think Cornhole Steve's made the comment that I should just refer to them as the league and the organization. The ACL as the league, the ACO as the organization. I thought that was kind of humorous. You know, the league, the organization, it sounds like I'm talking about government agencies, but it's also a great way to distinguish because if I say league and organization, it's clear which one I'm talking about. So I'm going to try to start doing that. Again, it's going to be a learning curve. So you may hear me in this episode kind of bouncing back and forth between ACL, league, ACO, organization. I may be saying both different ways. I may be doing them both ways as I try to progress through this, but my plan is maybe to go through and say league and organization, referring to them to make it easier to distinguish between the two. So we'll start with the organization first, the ACO. And I had some people ask me about why I don't really cover the majors. I talk more about the league's opens. I don't talk a lot about the organization's majors. Couple things. One, I touched on this, I think, in one of the previous podcast episodes I did, is that there are just too many majors out there. The league has, not the league, the organization, see, I'm already struggling. The organization has too many majors out there, and it just devalues every one of them. With the league, you've got 11 this year, this season, you've got 11 opens, 6 signature events, and a world championships. That's what, 18 events total that they're running for the entire season. With the organization, there's probably 30 or 40 majors out there. And on some weekends, they'll have 2 majors going at the same time in 2 different parts of the country, which tells me that you would never see the league run 2 opens in different parts of the country in the same weekend. At least, I mean, maybe in the future down the road, but for now, I don't think you'll ever see that. But with the organization, they're doing that for majors, which tells me, how can you it's not really a true major if you can run multiple of them on the same weekend. And so the organization has, I think they have 5 what they call super majors, I believe. One's coming up here towards the end of November. Maybe I'll touch on that and highlight some of the winners from that when that happens, because I know when you do a super major, you get all of the elite talent there. When they're running all these majors, I think that's part of the problem is you're not always having the elite talent at every single one of them. You even see it in the leagues open, some of the opens, sometimes the best players came in. It's not the players don't want to be there. A lot of times it's the travel expenses, it's the cost, it's getting time off from work when they have full-time jobs. So there are other factors of life that get involved that prevent the players from going to every event. But with the organization, it's just impossible for these pros to go to every single major because there's so many of them. The other problem is with the organization is trying to find results of these events is difficult. Like they run Scorholio, which I love Scorholio. Scorholio is awesome for running tournaments. I've run my tournaments on it. It's so easy to use for running. It's great for playing tournaments when you're on there. It just keeps everything really neat and organized and easy to follow along. The downside of Scorholio is trying to find past tournaments and trying to find results. Not the easiest. If you don't know the exact name of the tournament, it's hard to search for it. And there's so many tournaments on Scorholio when you're trying to search through and scroll through the past events. You just keep going page to page to page, trying to find the one you're looking for. Each tier has a separate tournament on Scorholio, and then if you have multiple brackets for the singles, the doubles, each one of those has one. Then you have the championship one. It's really tough to find. I wish the organization would have on their website where they list the upcoming majors. Also have a section for past majors, and you just have a button you click on, and boom, there's your results. The league does a great job of that. If you go to the ACL's, the league's website, and you click on the open, there's a spot that says results. You click on it. You have to do, I think it's like an extra click or two. I wish it was easier. It is an extra click or two. Once I figure out how to do it, it's no problem. And you pop up and they give you the standings, at least the top of the standings there for you. And you can find it for all the different divisions. They make it really, it's like one place to go. It's really nice and easy. It's clean to do. I wish the organization would clean that up better. It's just not worth me putting that much time and effort into it to find the results of a major that may not have been that big of a deal or that well attended. So that's why I don't really touch on them as much. As they get to, as the super major comes up here in November, I'll probably touch on that, and then we'll go from there. If they have some big events, big majors where I feel like a lot of the pro field is at that one, maybe I'll cover that one. We'll see. Let's jump into the league now, and a couple things I want to talk about. One, I want to talk about the ACL, the league put out a thing. I don't know how long it's been out there, but if you go on their webpage, they have a document put out that's the ACL Pro guide, and in there, if you scroll through, it actually tells you how to be a pro or who will be pros for next season. And it does mention that they're going to cut back to 100 pro players for the 25-26 season, starting in I think it's September of 2025 and going through July or August of 26. That'll be that season. They're cutting back to 100 pros, and they detail out how you can become a pro, who's going to be a pro, how they're going to choose those. They had 256 in the past. This year they're less than 256. I don't know exactly what the exact number is. I never saw that. I haven't looked that up to find that. But they offered out 256 pro spots. I don't know how many of them accepted, but they didn't backfill. So if someone didn't accept a pro spot, they didn't backfill. In the past, they would backfill until they filled all 256. Starting next season, at the end of this one, starting next season, they're going to cut down to 100. I talked about this in a previous episode, and I wasn't too keen on it, just because I feel like if you go from 256 to 100, you're downsizing. And I feel like that cornhole's still new, that no matter how you rank, if you only rank 100, there's always going to be someone outside that rank that is better than someone in there. And actually, there's going to be times where you're going to have someone outside those rankings that can actually win an event, a major event. I mean, you look at DLE, won the Women's World Championships last year. She wasn't a pro at all last year. She stepped in and won. There's been other instances where non-pros have won events in the ACL and the World Championships alone. Not just you had a non-pro team win a pro shootout last year. There's been cases where non-pros have won, and this is when they had 256 pro players. You cut that back to 100, they're going to be really good players deserving spots that get left out, and that was part of my take on it. It's also, I feel like the sport is, if you want the sport to grow, you want cornhole to be a major pro sport, 100 pro players is not enough. You need to have more than that. You start cutting back on these pro players, where are they going to go? They might end up going to the ACO, the organization, or the TCL. They might be going somewhere else to be a pro and kind of back away from the league, and now they're losing out on some of the best players. I worry about the direction they're headed by cutting back to 100 pros. That being said, I started looking through this and reading through this, and I got to thinking, and I think I've kind of started leaning back that maybe this might work okay. We'll see, and I'll explain to you why. First, I want to quickly run through how you qualify as a pro. And clearly in this format, if you're a pro, the current pros are going to have the easiest path to stay in the pro status. If you're not a pro, it's going to get harder and harder to get into the pro standings of that. And what they're going to do is they're going to take, so after the end of this season, they're going to take the top 20 ranked doubles teams, and those 40 players are going to be automatic pros for next season. And then they're going to take the top 32 ranked singles, and those 32 players will be automatic pros. Now, that's 72 players. However, this could be overlap. Those top 32, a lot of those are going to be on the top 40 doubles teams, if not all of them. Most of them will be. So there's a lot of overlaps. You're not getting really full 72 players there. You might get 50, 55 players maybe out of that those two doubles and singles standings there. And then they're going to do the top 5 pro, and those right there, those are for the pro only. That doesn't include elites. Those are pro onlys. Now, when we get to number 3 here, now you start bringing in elite players. So after you've got those people qualified, the ones that are left over, you're going to take the top 5 players in state points. So your state points matter. The top 5 in each state, which you've got 50 states, so you can have up to 250 players here, are going to play in a tournament, a pro qualifier tournament at the World Championships. And the top 6, those 6 players the top 6 in that bracket, in that tournament, are going to become pros. They get their pro status. So you've got 6 more in it there. And then they're going to have there's going to be a pro doubles challenger tournament and a pro singles challenger tournament at the World Championships here coming up end of this season. And you're going to take the top 4 teams in doubles, that's 8 players, the top 8 players in singles, and those are going to get pro stats. Now, those are going to be players who haven't already qualified for the World Championships, which is this is kind of a thing that caught my eye was. In fact, let me pull up here and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here. So the pro singles challenger bracket, the pro doubles challenger bracket, it's all players that are ranked inside the top 250 in pro singles and the top 125 in pro doubles who have not already qualified for the singles or doubles World Championships. I could be wrong, but I do think that elite players are going to have opportunities to qualify for the World Championships in singles and doubles before these challenger brackets come out, which is, like I said, it's going to be an opportunity where those who qualify earlier won't have this opportunity to become a pro. So that may be something ACL needs to look at and maybe open this. Maybe these challenger brackets or maybe it's just worded wrong. I don't know. Maybe just open up for all elite players can jump in there and compete because this is going to be an opportunity for them to, I think, qualify. This is an opportunity for them to qualify for the World Championships in singles and doubles for that season, but also an opportunity for them to qualify to become pros for the next season. So it's actually an important event for a lot of those elite players. So then the next criteria that they talk about is if there's less than 80 pros qualified in those first 5. So if you have, after all those first 5, you still have less than 80 pros, which is possible. Let's say only 75. You got 75 that have made it into at that point. Those last 5 spots, they're going to take the pro single standings and take the first 5 who are the highest in the standings that haven't qualified yet, and those will get it. So they're going to fill up to 80 at that point. So by criteria 6, you're going to have 80 pro players already set and locked in. And then they're going to do a pro qualifier at the World Championships. The top 16 finishers in that qualifying tournament will become pros, and that leaves 4 sponsor exempt spots for the ACL to pick out to give out pro status to 4 different players that they feel deserving that maybe haven't qualified for a reason. And I have no problem. I think sponsor exemptions, I think the league has the right, because there's situations where players may have family issues, health issues, other issues, life related that are a priority, and they have to step away from this season, or they don't get to finish the season, but they still deserve a spot to come back in. So I do like the fact the ACL is holding 4 spots for people who are deserving. It doesn't say that they have to fill those, right? So it's possible that maybe they don't. If there aren't 4 qualified, I don't know if they're going to just find 4 and immediately put them in, or what they're going to do there. But you're going to end up with 100. But you can have more than 100. So if I go back to step 6 here, where it says if they're less than 80, well, in the first 5, you could have more than 80, right? Because you've got 40 players from doubles, 32 from singles. If they don't overlap, that's 72. Very odd they wouldn't overlap. I mean, that's impossible. They weren't going to overlap. But that's 72 there. And then you get 6 from the state tournament. The top state players playing in the tournament get 6 there. And then you add 8 from the doubles challenger bracket and 8 from the singles challenger bracket. So that's 16 and 6. That's 22. And we had 72. So that's 90, right? 94 that you filled right there. And then you're going to add 16 from the pro qualifier. So that's 110. And then you get 4. So you could have up to 114 if the doubles and singles don't overlap. You'd have up to 114. So you could have more than 100 pros throughout the course. I doubt that's going to happen, because I think a majority of the 40 doubles players are going to be the same as the 32 singles players and standings. I doubt that's going to happen, but you could have more than that. So that's how you're going to qualify in to be a pro. The top, that's how they get that. It's how you fill it. So it's going to be very difficult. There's not a lot of openings. There are opportunities, but in order to have the opportunity here, with everything other than the pro qualifier, you have to be an elite player. You have to at least be elite status, which means you have to be an advanced level player. I don't know if in the past, I think last year they rolled out elites first. I think anybody could be an elite and make a pay to be an elite. I don't know about this season. I think this season you had to be an advanced level to then be eligible to buy into the elite program, because you had to buy a diamond status to be an elite. But I know if that's not the case, I know for starting out next season, you're going to have to be an advanced level player. So not everybody can buy into it. But if you're an advanced level player, you can then buy elite status if you want to. If you don't buy elite, you've got 16 spots in the pro qualifier. And I don't know, maybe I think the pro qualifier is, the pro qualifier is open to all ACL members. So that's one avenue. If you don't want to pay for the elite money, you can try to claim one of those 16 spots, pro qualifier. It's tough to do. If you haven't been part of that or witnessed that gauntlet of the pro qualifier, it's very difficult. And if there are going to be less pros this year, if you're only having 100 pros, they're only filling 80 spots. That means a lot of those pro players who would normally be in the 256 are now going to have to go through that pro qualifier. So it's going to be an even tougher a tournament to get through to qualify for pro. It's be harder to get this year, this season, or this coming season than it's ever been to get to that status. But if you don't make it in the top 100, but you still feel like you want to be a pro, or you can compete at that pro level, or you want to try to be a pro, you can go in and get and become an elite level. As long as you're an advanced level player, you can buy that. I think it's the diamond membership, and you can buy into the elite program. And you're going to have the only difference you have from elite to pros is the pros are guaranteed spots in the signature events and the world championships. Elite players have to earn them. But if you think you're good enough to do that, then earning it shouldn't be a problem. So if you want to be there, and that's where I kind of step back and say, you know what, my early take on this may be a little off because they're opening up the elite level for any advanced player that wants to jump in there to try to be pro. They're going to have less players designated pro, but I don't know what that number is of elite. You may end up having 300 elite players and 100 pros, and now you've got 400 players competing at that pro level. That ends up being more than 256, although only 100 of them are called pros. So we'll see how that plays out. That may be better in some ways. And as far as I know, the costs associated with the elite and the pro status are pretty similar to each other. So it's not really costing you that much more that I know of. At least it hasn't this year. I don't know if they've really put the fees out for next season yet. They haven't. Maybe they'll change something there in the structure. Maybe the pros will get, maybe being fewer pros, the pros will have a bigger advantage on the financial side and not have to pay what the elites do. I don't know. It's still, to me, my only problem is it goes against the ACL's or the league's motto, anyone can play, anyone can win, because now you have to at least be an advanced level player, and you have to pay to get into, like, you have to buy your right to be in that special club to play with the pros. So you really take away from anyone can play, anyone can win, because you can't. Right? If you're not an advanced level player, you can't play in the pro division. You can't compete against the pros. You can't play at that top division. You can't earn money at these opens. You can't. That's what I think where to me I struggle is the league was built on the anyone can play, anyone can win motto slogan, and I feel like they're really veering off away from that, getting further away from that. No, if their plan and their goal was to be a pro only league and eventually cut out the amateur side, that's fine. If that's what they want to do and that's where they're headed, I think they're going on the right path. I don't know if 100 pros is the right answer for that. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention and bring up is if you read at the very bottom here, there's no more than 4 players under the age of 18 as of January 1st, 2026 can be an ACL Pro. At this point, if you're not only going to allow 4 or no more than 4 in there, just take the juniors out altogether. If you're not over 18, you can't play in the pro division. Take the juniors out. They have a junior pro division now. Put the juniors there, let the juniors play. And because honestly, if you were to take the top 100 best players in the league right now, there's way more than 4 juniors in it. You probably got 15, 20 of them are probably juniors or some form or close to it. I mean, maybe it's not. I don't know. I'd be comments almost 1 out of every 5, 1 out of every 6 is going to be a junior. I mean, juniors are really dominating the sport. So if you're only allowing 4 juniors into the top 100, then you're clearly not having the top 100 players. You're not going to have your 100 pros are not the top 100 players in the league. Right? They just aren't if you're leaving the juniors out. Other pro leagues have age requirements. It's not uncommon. Other leagues you have to be a certain age before you compete at the pro level. Cornhole can do that. Just say you have to be 18 or older, and that way you eliminate the juniors, you eliminate all the gambling issues, and I think it just makes it cleaner. I think letting 4 in. Because what if based on this, what if the top 5 players in the rankings were juniors? You're telling me the number 5 ranked player is not going to qualify for pro status? Like that just doesn't seem right to me. And you're letting the 4 in, and you're letting the 5th one in. And honestly, maybe the top 5 aren't going to be, but I wouldn't be surprised if 5 of the top 20 are juniors, 5 of the top 30 are juniors. So you're leaving out a top 20, top 30 player from pro status just because of their age. I think at that point, I just think it's cleaner to say no juniors in the pro division. That's my thoughts on that. I don't know. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on where you stand. Again, there's more information probably to come on this. I'd have to see. Initially, I think the system of 256 pros is too many. I think you start adding people in there. Although I do think the sport needs pro players who are great for the sport, ambassador sport, that may not be the best players. I do think that's important to grow the sport. You need those ambassadors. You need those pros at the local level, the regional level, who are helping bring new players in. And I think they deserve a pro status. So you're cutting those out now. You're basically saying we only care about those who play the best, which some of your elite players aren't the best ambassadors for the sport. And I think that's where the ACL is really going to hurt. Is you're losing a lot of those bottom half pro players are better ambassadors because they have to work harder to keep their pro status. They have to work harder to keep their sponsorships. So they're out there on social media. They're out there on in the local tournaments, the local events, promoting the league, promoting the sponsors. And those are the people that you're going to be turning away. And I think there's going to be a negative impact. There's going to be some downside to that. So I do think you need to keep those and telling them that, well, you can still join the elite program. I don't know if that's good enough. Because at that point, maybe they turn their attention and go to the ACO, the organization, and say, you know what, I want to be a pro with you. I can't, I don't know. I feel like you're going to lose. I feel like the league's going to lose some good players that way and some great ambassadors to the sport. That's going to bite them in the end. So we'll see how it works out. I'm curious to get your opinions on that. If you have an opinion on that, what your takes are. For those of you who've played in the elite division this year, I'd love to get your thoughts on how it's going. If you think it's worth it, if you like it, if there are changes you want to make, I'd love to hear the pros and cons of it. So if you're an elite player this year, I'd love to hear some feedback from you guys. Shoot me an email at MikesCornholeBags@gmail.com or shoot me a message on social media, one of my social media accounts. I'd love to hear some feedback and maybe have a little conversation with you guys on that. And one last thing on that I want to touch on was when they go next season to the 100 pros and then you have elites filling in the rest of the spots at these tournaments, the ACL cannot have elites winning a lot of these open events and a lot of these senior events. If the elites are winning these events, that's gonna be a bad look, because then you're telling me that your process for picking the top 100 is not accurate and you're picking the wrong 100 pros if you've got elites to win. So that's what the ACL's got to be careful of, or the league's got to be careful of, is these elites coming in and winning, especially the signature events. If you go to signature events and the pros aren't the ones winning, it's elites that are winning or placing the top 2 or 3 up there in those events. That's going to be a problem that the league's going to have to address, and something that's going to be an issue, I think, going down the road. So they have to be careful of that, of who you don't let in, especially if you're letting these juniors. If you're only letting 4 juniors in pro status and the rest of the juniors have to go play and they can still come through the elite level, which I mean, that's what they've done this year, is juniors can go in the elite level. If they're allowing that to happen, I think you're going to see elite players winning signature events, winning opens for sure, winning signature events, maybe even winning world championships. And that's not going to be a good look for the league to say that your 100 best pros couldn't beat this elite level player. That's going to be a bad look. So they got to be careful about how they do this. And I think they're going to have to tweak this. I'm sure they'll go a season with this, and we'll see how it goes. Hopefully they'll tweak it, because I don't think the current setup is going to be the best one. But again, I think the one thing the league has done, and they're not afraid of doing, is they're not afraid to make changes, not afraid to make adjustments from season to season. I mean, they've made some pretty drastic changes over the years. So I think they're willing to make changes. I just hope they're willing to admit when something isn't working and try veer in a completely different direction. We'll see how that goes. Next one to jump into is the Bag Maker Championship after open number 3. I've got standings here. We'll start with the double side here, and I got a little graph I put up here. I decided I've been just clipping from my spreadsheet and post up here. But if I'm gonna keep doing this, I wanted to make it look a little more official, so I did a little graphic to put up here. And I've got all the bag makers here. We still only have 12 bag makers that have earned points over the first 3 opens. So you're getting a lot of duplicate bag companies that their players are winning. The one thing I will notice on this is BG is the only company that has placed in the top 12 in all 3 of the opens so far. Ultra won open number 1 and open number 3. They won number 1 with Rawls and Kingsbury, and they won this recently with Harbaugh and Trader throwing the Viper R's, I think they were. But they didn't place in open number 2. They didn't get in the top 12 in open number 2, so they didn't get points for that. That's why BG is actually today. BG hasn't won a single open yet as far as their player-wise, because Ultra won the first and third, and then All Cornhole with Ruben and Trader won open number 2. So there's your top 3 right there. And I feel like, honestly, consistent, because BG placed second in open 1 and 3. Even though they didn't win, they placed second there, and they were tied for 5th, I believe, in open number 2. So they've been consistent, which is why they're up there. And again, we've only had 3 opens, so it's not a really big picture. We still got 8 more opens to go, and then jump into the signature events, which I'm going to weigh the signature events a little differently. I haven't figured out how to weigh those yet. And even I think the world championships, I'm going to give double points to. So if you win the world championships, it should be worth double what an open win is. So if an open win's worth 12, world championships worth 24, maybe the signature events are worth 18 for a win. I've kind of prorate those down, something like that. I don't know. I'll tweak that by the time we get there. I got plenty of time to worry about it, but we'll tweak that. And it goes along. I mean, right now I'm looking down this list of doubles, and only one thing stands out to me, and that's Cornhole Scenario sitting in 4th place right now. And that's because in open number 2, they finished second with Isidro Herrera and Jalen Jones finished second. So I think they deserve that, right? But everything else I look down, I don't see a lot. I mean, it was nice to finally see Titan show up. So Titan, Nola, and Fire all finally scored some points and showed up on the rankings here. Titans probably the most surprising because with Hisner and Birchfield, who kind of dominated towards the end of last season in the doubles, that they finally got some points. And I don't think they both played in Open 2, so that, they weren't there for that one, so that was part of it. But it's nice to see them finally get some points here. And I'm curious to see how this changes as we go along. Right now, like I said, it looks pretty solid to me, so I'm not going to tweak the points at all as we go along. If something seems out of whack, I may adjust them. But I think the top three, even though BG hasn't won an Open, they've been the most consistent so far for the first three. So I think they do deserve that top spot. Ultras won 2 of the 3 Opens, so I think they deserve second, right? All Cornhole won the third Open or the second Open. I think they deserve third. So I feel like those top 3 are probably where they should be right now at this point. I have no issues with that. Now we jump over onto the single side here. And again, BG is the only company that's placed in the top 12 in all 3 of the Opens, so they're sitting at the top. They did win Open number 2 with Ryan Trader. Again, BG and Ultra at the top 2 spots here. Ultra, won Open number 1 with Harbaugh, and then they placed second here at Open number 3. And again, they didn't place it all in Open. Ultra had a rough Open number 2 when it comes to the top 12 in singles and doubles. Looking down this list here again, nothing really stands out to me that I feel like, man, that's just odd, or that doesn't feel like it belongs. I mean, I don't have an issue with the rankings. I don't have an issue where everything is. I think, I mean, you may see all cornhole start to creep up if Trader continues to throw the auras for the rest of these Opens. You may see them start creeping up and moving up, because I mean, I feel like he's going to carry them. And as I know, Jay Rubin hasn't played Ruben's at the first 2 Opens, so he just missed this last one. But Ruben and Trader throwing all cornhole and singles. I feel like all cornhole is going to start making a run here down the road, so we'll see that. But overall, I mean, again, I don't have any issues with it. I'm kind of excited to see that this is working out, kind of like I thought it might. I think it's a good metric. The only thing that's skewing this is volume, and I think that's where BG gets the advantage. Is they have a larger number of pro players than a lot of these other companies, and the small companies are disadvantaged because they don't have that big number of pro players. So they have to have their top teams and top players can't have a bad Open, otherwise it really hurts them. Whereas BG, their top 2 or 3 teams could all struggle, and their 4th or 5th place team could come up and still place in the top 12, and they get points for that. Excited to see how this plays out. Looking forward to it. Love to hear your thoughts on this. If you're liking this, if you think I should tweak something, if you think there's something off, drop a comment down below. Shoot me a message. Shoot me an email. Love to hear your feedback on this. Like I said, I'm just trying something new. We'll see how it works out. Let's jump down into the last thing I want to talk about, and I want to jump back into my conspiracy theories. So if you don't like conspiracy theories, if you think they're stupid, I know some of you do, you can cut it off here. That's all that's left is the conspiracy theories. But if you want to stick around, I want to jump in and kind of follow up on my conspiracy theory from last episode, where I was talking about BG, or the owners of BG, having possible ownership, possible leadership stake in the ACL. And I can't confirm that still yet. I don't have any solid evidence to prove that is a reality. But I also don't have I can't deny it either. I can't say that it was wrong. I can't disprove it, but I can't prove it. I've had some information come to me that I'm not comfortable enough sharing and saying, yep, this is definitely happening. But I do want to share something that I've kind of learned, and I've heard what I'm about to share. I've heard from multiple different sources, not just one. I've heard from probably 10 different sources that told me basically the exact same thing. And that's when these bag companies submit for a stamp approval on their bags with the ACL. Now, it starts this season. They have to submit. They send in a set of bags. I don't know how many sets. They send in at least one set of bags. But they also they have to provide the ACL with the materials, the names of the materials they're using, the fill, the types of fill, and the ratio and the mixture. So if it's a 70-30 mix or a 60-30-10 or whatever they're doing, they have to give them the exact ratio mixture that the fill they're using. And then they have to also buy the ACL with the suppliers of where they're buying the material and where they're buying the fill from. So they have to give them not just exactly what they're using, but where they're purchasing it from. My question is, why does the ACL need this? And I reached out to the ACL after the last episode or before last episode. I reached out, sent them an email. I got a response back, and I sent an email asking some questions. I haven't heard back from them yet again on answering my questions. I don't know if they will. My guess is the ACL will say that that's private information and they're not going to share that with me. But I'm hoping they can possibly confirm some of this for me, at least just say, yes, that is. I don't know if they'll answer why. And my issue with why is, one, materials. Okay, you want the names of the materials, maybe, but here's the thing: if you go when they're inspecting bags at the end of a tournament, when they're my understanding is they're only inspecting the measurements, the weights, and the lengths and the widths of the bag and the thickness of the bag. They're not inspecting the bag for materials to make sure it's the right materials. They're inspecting bags for fill, and I don't even know how you would know if it's the right fill mixture. If I'm a bag maker and I submit a bag for approval and it has a 70% round bead fill that's a small fill, heavy, I don't know, heavy, small fill, and a 30% flat fill in there, and then I get approval for that, and then I make a bag and I have a pro player go throw it, and it's actually a 60-40 mix. How would they ever know that? They would have no way to know that it's not 70-30 without even, and even if they open the bag up, you pour it out, unless you're going to sit there and count every single different fill and separate it out. There's no way to know if it's a 60-40, 70-30, 50-50 blend. Like, you're not really going to know that. So I don't know why that information is provided, because there's no way to verify that. You could say a mixed fill, right? Because I can tell you if it's 100% of one fill or if it's a mixture. So you could say it's a mixed fill or it's a 100% round fill, 100% flat fill. That I'm fine with. Like, I can see that being on there. But to tell them exactly the fill and the ratio makes no sense to me. And then the supplier of where you're buying it from, why does the ACL need to know where these bag companies are buying their fill and their materials from? Why? And honestly, I don't think the ACL needs to know any of this. Who needs to know this? Well, if there's a bag company that has ownership stake in the ACL, this is valuable information for them. This gives them a competitive advantage, right? Because here's the thing. If for a company to find a new material, there's a lot of time and a lot of money spent in research and development. These companies are buying a lot of materials, and most of them don't make the cut. They make bags, they put out prototypes, they throw them, they have pro players throw them, they have other maybe local players that are trying these bags out, and most of the bags they put up probably aren't making the cut, and they're getting scrapped. But they're still putting money into it, they're putting labor, they're putting time, they're putting effort into those until they find the one that works. And once you find that one that works, there's a lot of hard work, a lot of time, a lot of money that went into finding that material to know that it's going to be successful and be a material that's going to make a great bag. Now you're providing that to the ACL free of charge, and now the ACL, if there's a bag company that has part ownership in them, maybe BG, now has access to that, and it didn't cost them anything. And now, I mean, again, I'm going further down the rabbit hole of conspiracy theories. But what if BG says, you know what, we like that material, hold off, don't approve that yet, and now BG goes and puts their bag out first with that material that was the information they got from another bag company. They go develop a bag, put it out before that bag company gets approval in theirs. I mean, it may be a reach, maybe that doesn't happen, but it's possible. It's in the realm of possibility that could happen. If it's not happening, then why does the ACL need to know? Why does the ACL care about the ratios of the mixture of the fill? Why does the ACL care where the material bought from? Why does the ACL care what the name of the material is? Again, they're not checking for that when they're doing back tests. They have no way of, I mean, like I said, again, you might be able to tell the material. If you have someone who knows materials, they can look at it and tell you that this is the right or wrong material. Sure. But they couldn't tell you the mixture is right or wrong in the fill. They couldn't tell you if that fill is the exact same fill, because the problem with fill is you can buy the same fill from the same supplier. I can buy some today, and I can buy some 6 months from now, and 6 months from now, it's a different fill than what I bought today. It's just there's inconsistencies in the suppliers of the fill, and even in materials. Like, you can buy materials, like especially herringbone carpet. I swear, you can buy the same material, but different batches have a slightly different feel. I just have a slightly different texture. That they may play a slightly different, just a touch difference. There's slight differences in different runs of fabric, just like there's different runs of the fill. So there's no way to tell that it's exactly the same. And if I'm buying from a supplier and they don't have the material I want, and can I not go buy from those supplier? Or my bag's been approved, I can only buy from that one supplier. What if they go out of business? Do I have to resubmit that bag for approval to buy the same material from a different supplier? Like, there's a lot of questions there that it just doesn't make sense to me. And then the other thing I heard on, and it kind of ties to this, is the ACL wants to get to a point where there are no copy bags, no duplicate bags, no. So if I have a bag, if I create a bag, like Ultra has the Viper R, they don't want any other company making another Viper R. Now, my understanding is you can tweak the fill, different fills, maybe different templates, but you can't have the exact same material, exact same tail, exact same fill. The problem I have with that is if I'm a bag company, do I have access to know all the other bags have been approved, to know exactly what, if I'm a bag company, I have information to the material names and the fill ratios and the fill mixes they're using and all that, then I know that I can avoid that. But if I don't have that, how do I know I'm not making the same bag? Because a bag company can submit for approval and not release a bag for 6 months, 8 months, or maybe never. Like I could submit for approval, get a bag approved, and never actually release that bag for that season. But if this comes into effect, I can prevent other companies from releasing the exact same bag. And how does that, again, how does that matter, or why does that matter? Well, it really doesn't, unless you're a bag company that has ownership in the ACL. And like I said, again, someone submits a bag for approval and you go, man, that's a really good bag. I really want that bag. I can go make that bag, get mine approved. We'll hold off on that. Now mine's approved. Now you can reject that one because you say, nope, that's the same as another one's already been approved, right? Because it doesn't have to be released, it just has to be approved. So now again, you're giving that bag company, BG, that might have possible ownership in the ACL in the league, another competitive advantage, another way to take advantage of the system and prevent other companies from getting ahead. And the other problem is, I don't care if a company makes a copy bag. I don't care if you use the exact same materials, the exact same template, the exact same fill ratio mixture. There's just something different sometimes. Certain companies make bags a little, they just have a better feel, there's something about them, and maybe it's just the way they're made. But I do think that sometimes there's companies that just make bags a little better. They pay attention to small details, maybe the way the corners are sewn, maybe the way the closing seam is stitched, maybe just making sure that they're not just kind of guessing the fill. They're putting the exact amount of fill, the exact ratio. Like sometimes when I weigh bags, I can find that in some companies you'll get 4 bags and they all weigh a little different. I mean, they're a tenth of an ounce off, not a big deal, but they're a little different. Other companies get bags and they're all spot on, exact right weight. And I know that company took a little extra time to make sure that bag was filled perfectly, right? And the other company maybe just kind of eyeballed it. This is about right, dumped it in, and didn't care. So there are little things that can happen that makes one bag better than the other. It's not fair that just because one company submits for it first, that they have the rights for that for as long as they have that bag approved, is what I'm understanding. I don't know. I don't understand the reason. I don't understand the reasoning behind no copy bags. I understand the reasoning behind the ACL needing to know the suppliers of the materials and the ratios and make sure they fill even the material names. Like none of that makes sense to me. Again, I've asked some of that I've asked questions for the ACL. I haven't asked all of them yet, but I've asked some of that. If someone from the ACL wants to come on here or wants to reach out to me or wants to come on one of these podcasts and talk about this, I would love to have you on here. If you want to shoot me an email, MikesCornholeBags@gmail.com, reach out to me on social media. I would, if you've got answers to this, I would love to know answer. If there is a reasonable answer that makes this make sense, besides a bag company having ownership in the ACL, I would love to hear it. Because the only answer I have is that a bag company is making these decisions, not the ACL, and they're making decisions because they want to get a competitive advantage. They want to cheat the system, and I don't think that's fair. And I think that's going to come back to bite the ACL, the league in the future. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. I mean, maybe one of you guys listening, like maybe you heard this, like, oh no, that makes perfect sense, and here's why, and I'm completely missing something obvious. That's possible. If you do have that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Drop a comment, again, shoot me an email, whatever. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. But as I find more information about it, I still don't have any concrete evidence to support any of these conspiracy theories I have. That's why they're only theories. If I ever get solid evidence, I will share it with you guys. I have no problem doing that. But every time I find more information, it just keeps piling on and adding to and confirming the theories that I have out there. I just don't have enough solid evidence. It's all circumstantial evidence, I guess is the right word. I don't, is circumstantial, is that the right? That may not be the right word. It's just it's evidence that I can't confirm. In a way, it's kind of a, this is a hypothesis I have right here, and I'm trying to find answers. I'm trying to do the research to find the answers. The problem is the people who have the answers, I can't get them to talk, or they're not allowed to talk, right? And so that's where I'm hitting walls, hitting dead ends, and struggling to get where I need to go. And I mean, like, the ACL is doing a good job of sheltering themselves with a lot of this. But the problem is, if you don't put information out to explain things, and you can't hide behind those walls forever. Eventually, you've got to come out and say, this is why we're doing this. And you got to have a good reason. There's got to be something more than we just want to know the information. There's got to be a reason why, because are you planning on doing a thorough inspection of the bags to make sure it's the exact same material? I don't know how the players can prove to you where that material is purchased from, where the bag maker. I mean, are we going to have a certificate of authenticity with every bag we buy now to show, hey, this is where I bought it, this is the bag maker, they signed off certifying that these materials and fill are exactly right, and they're all bought from the said suppliers that you have on file? Like, I mean, that gets absurd and ridiculous, and it does sound absurd, right? But yet that's why I feel like this whole requirement is absolutely absurd. So I'm getting on a rant again. I told you I wasn't going to rant, and I'm going on a rant. I'm getting on a tangent here that I didn't want to, but it does bother me because I want the ACL, I want the ACO, I want them to succeed. I want cornhole to grow. I love the sport. And honestly, as the leagues grow, this grows my channel here. They bring more viewers in to watch my content, which is beneficial to me. So I'm not trying to tear these leagues down. I'm not trying to beat them up. I don't want to see them fail. I want to succeed. But when I see something that's not right, I feel like I have a platform and I'm going to say it and I'm going to share it. And I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking, right? I mean, it's always been my review has always been built on honesty. And I feel like that's just what I believe in. And so I'm going to share my honest opinions with you. Again, conspiracy theories, these are opinions. These are not facts. So take them, do with them what you will. But if you have any information and you want to share it, I would love to hear it. If you have a different theory on this, I love conspiracy theories. I love it. And if you have a great theory and you want to share it, maybe I like it and I'll share it on the next episode or a future episode. So anyway, I've taken up enough of your time. I thank you guys for spending the time with me during this video today. And if you have any thoughts on anything I've covered, drop a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts or shoot me an email, MikesCornholeBags@gmail.com. Always love hearing you guys' opinions and takes and everything. As always, I thank you so much for your support and I thank you for watching.